Alright, so this is Roan High Knob Shelter, which Riley and I stayed at last night. I'm Van Gogh in my bug net. Riley is in his jacket still. Riley, come on, let's go. And we are finally getting moving. And it was another chilly night last night. Today is day number 30 of our Appalachian Trail through hike attempt. And it is Saturday, June 1st. One of the hikers checked his thermometer a little earlier and said that it was 42 degrees. And he was like, I don't believe that. I think it's colder than that. Oh, buddy. I actually was not too bad last night, so. Alright, so Riley is doing his regular morning routine here, and I will we'll check back in later. Alright, so Riley and I have made it 1.5 miles down from the shelter last night, and we are now at the start of Roan Mountain. So nice informational signs here. A global biodiversity hotspot. And there's a big parking area here. It's called Carver's Gap. And so this makes it nice and easy for people to drive up here and do a easy day hike along Roan Mountain. And I'm envisioning it's not going to be easy to walk with Riley today because he's going to see so many people and he's going to just want to stop and wait for everybody. Alright, we're back. I'm just going to continue the update here. So we're still just ahead of Carver's Gap. There's a lot of cars parked there today because apparently there is a cycling race that is going on the road, and they have like aid station out there. And so that's one of the reasons there's so many cars here. But I think even without the cycling race, it's just a very popular place for people to come. And I was reading this sign here, this informational sign, and this part about grassy bald communities, like as we go up Roan Mountain, we're gonna be in a lot of grassy bald areas. And it says the grassy bald communities surrounding you were once kept open by a combination of weather conditions and grazing by prehistoric mega herbivores. Imagine a herd of elephant-sized mastodons grazing these mountaintops. I did not know that. So apparently in prehistoric times there were enormous creatures that were like the size of elephants that would just eat from the top of the mountains and prevent any large plants from growing on them. And then it says, in the recent past, the balds have been maintained by natural herbivores, elk, bison, deer, etc. Farmers later grazed their livestock on these same slopes. So I thought the part about mega herbivores was pretty interesting. And so Riley and I have gotten some food now. So we're food and water, so I think we're well nourished to start the day, and Riley has plenty of motivation to hike up with all the people around. And the sun is coming out and it's starting to actually feel warm, so pretty soon I'll be able to take off my layers, and Riley can take off his layer pretty soon. And we have 14.8 miles to go to get to Route 19. So we have a full day, but things are looking up. We'll check in later. Sorry. So we're coming down from Roan Mountain, and I just got to get a shot of this little cave here. It's not really a cave, but it's definitely a an open area inside and underneath that rock. So that would be an awesome shelter during the rain. Really cool. Come on, Riley. So we finally got off of Roan Mountain. And there were so many people up there. It's a Saturday, so that makes it more likely that there were gonna be a lot of people up there. People were passing us. There were so many people going north, the same direction as we were, but there were also a heck of a lot of people going south. And I didn't enjoy that much. Don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm just being honest. I didn't enjoy all the people. I'm so used to being out here without that many people around. And the main reason that I don't like it is because I have Riley with me. And like I like it that he's excited to see people, but he just tries to keep up with people that are ahead, and he just goes full steam ahead. And then if people are going in the opposite direction and there's nobody going in our direction, then he just wants to stop. And if he's going too fast, until I've worked up my energy, I don't have the energy to go that fast. And so that's what makes it annoying for me. It's not that the people are doing anything wrong. They're absolutely just enjoying the trail, as they have every right to do, like Riley and I are doing. But I'm sorry, Riley, you're getting tangled up here. Anyway, so I'm glad we're off the mountain now. We're back on the AT proper, which is much less trafficked, and it's easier to go at our own pace, which is very nice. So we will check in later. We are walking up on a little landmark here, Riley and I. So Riley wants to sniff around first, but there's a couple signs here. I remember these from my previous hikes in 2017 and 2018. Riley, what do you see there? Oh, buddy, watch out. Hey, watch out, Riley. I'm sorry. There was, Riley found some dog poop that was laying on the ground. So I had to use my leg to get him away from it. Riley, let's go look at the signs, buddy, and then we're going to take a break here. Right, so the AT continues that way, AT North. And this sign here says Appalachian Trail, Yellow Mountain Gap. Yellow Mountain Gap is the junction of the Appalachian Trail and the historic Bright's Trace route used by the Over Mountain Men to cross the mountains en route to the Revolutionary War battle at Kings Mountain, North Carolina. The Blue Blazed Side Trail, which I believe is, I guess it's that way. Yeah, the Blue Blazed Side Trail leads 0.2 miles to a barn, which has been renovated to a shelter for Appalachian Trail hikers. Keep right at forks in the trail and turn right onto the gravel road, which leads to the shelter. So, this is an old sign, and what I've heard, or since 2018, which was the last time I was on this trail and saw this section of the trail, I heard that the shelter over there, which is a barn that was converted to a shelter, has been shut down because basically it needed renovating, and the Appalachian Trail Conservancy was not able to provide resources to provide the necessary renovation. So they've had to shut the shelter down, but I believe the land is still available if people want to walk over there and set up their tents outside the shelter. And then this is a little informational sign. So this is Yellow Mountain Gap, 1780. September 25th, down yonder at Sycamore Shoals they gathered. 1,000 men from the militias of Virginia, North Carolina, and what is now Tennessee joined forces to resist the British. This army of independent over-mountain men provided their own horses, rations, and guns. Then 2 days later, September 27th, they rode up this mountain as the weather turned bitter. Through this gap they trudged with the snow shoe-mouth deep. Without benefit of supply wagon, surgeon, or chaplain, the over-mountain men continued the 170 miles to Kings Mountain. There they defeated the British-led loyalists in bloody battle. They won a significant battle of the Revolutionary War. And then there's a map with the route of the over-mountain men. And this trail here, Riley, come here, buddy, is called the Over-Mountain Victory National Historic Trail. And it goes that way. I don't know how long it goes, but it's an official National Historic Trail. So, pretty cool. Here comes another hiker. Riley's very excited. So, I'm going to turn this off and we're going to check in later. Riley and Van Gogh checking in again on day 30. So this is our view here. I think the trail is gonna just continue all the way up that mountain and maybe go all the way to the top. We'll see. So I think we've gone about 10 miles today, and it feels like it's, I haven't checked the time, but it feels like it's like maybe 6 o'clock now. And it's getting chilly. It was actually, it felt hot actually when we were going over Roan Mountain after Carver's Gap, but it's the sun's no longer out and it's feeling chilly now. So I have my jacket on that I picked up at Jerry's Cabin Shelter very fortuitously. I really like this jacket, by the way. It's, I don't know if it's meant to be a hiking jacket, but it's fairly lightweight and it does a decent job of keeping me warm. And the material on the outside is water repellent. So it's kind of like a combination warm jacket and a raincoat. Whereas before, my puffy jacket could not be used as a raincoat. So I like the fact that it's 2-in-1. I feel comfortable. I definitely feel much better if it rains, knowing that I have this jacket. And I'm also able to wear this at night when it's cold out, which it's been cold out the past several nights. And it could be cold out at any given night. So I like this jacket. An update on our plans. I'm having second thoughts about trying to get to Mountain Harbor Hostel tonight. Even if we get there, I'm having second thoughts about just staying there. And the reason is, I mean, there's a really good reason to stay there, which is that they have an amazing breakfast. But I feel like I'm kind of overindulging unnecessarily if we stay there. For the reason that my food bag, my Ursack bag, which is a 15-liter bag, coming out of Irwin, which was only on Thursday, so 2 days ago, it was really, really heavy. but it didn't bother me that much because I was very well fed and I had a good rest while I was staying in Irwin. It's very windy, by the way, so I'll try to talk closer to the camera. And anyway, so my food bag has been gradually getting lighter, but it still feels really heavy. And my next stop after Route 19 and possibly Mountain Harbor is Boots Off Hostel and Campground, which is like 33 miles away. And I think, so today's Saturday, and I think we're gonna target to get to Boots Off, which is like close to mile 430 on the trail. We're gonna target to get there Monday night, which is only 2 days from now. So if we stop in at Mountain Harbor and eat a big breakfast tomorrow, I'm not gonna make any progress on lowering my food now. I feel like I have enough food, definitely for Riley to get to Boots Off, and even further, possibly even to Damascus. And I feel like I have enough food for me to get all the way to Damascus. So that's why I'm having second thoughts. I feel like it would be more prudent to continue on with the hike and just consume the food that I'm already carrying and enjoy the lighter pack weight that will result in. So, those are my thoughts. Definitely windy out here. It's a good thing I have my jacket on. And we're just gonna get where we get tonight. It seems like most likely we're not gonna get to Mountain Harbor. But I'm unsure if we're gonna get all the way to Route 19 or not. So we're just gonna try to enjoy the hike and definitely try to set up camp if we don't get to Mountain Harbor in a safe area that's under tree line and out of the wind, and hopefully a little lower elevation, like lower elevation than at the very top, which is where we're going right now. So that's our update for now, and I hope everyone's doing well, and we will try to check in by tomorrow. The trail we're going up this mountain now does not have switchbacks. Straight up the mountain. We have reached the peak, the summit of Hump Mountain. And I remember actually back in 2018 when I was I mentioned yesterday that I had camped, or I spent the night at Clyde Smith Shelter, 25 miles from Mountain Harbor, US Route 19, and I made it. I wanted to make it to Route 19, but I was exhausted at the end of the day. I believe I actually camped right at this spot. I believe so. It looks familiar to me. So I remember it was a clear night that night and I had a good view of the stars. But tonight would not be a good night to camp here. It's extremely windy and cold. And the good thing is that from here on, it should be downhill until Route 19. But it's like 5 miles downhill, so we still have a ways to go. Have another memorial to show. Not Riley, but Murray plaque. He was chair of the Appalachian Trail Conference from 1961 to 1975, instrumental in bringing the Appalachian Trail to the highlands of Rhone. Thank you, Stan Murray. Okay. Back onto the trail we go. I am eager to get back under tree line and out of this wind. Riley, however, is in no hurry, so I'm gonna have to help him with that. Hello, Riley. Good boy. All right, so we got under tree line. Excellent. And started descending the mountain. And the terrain was very rocky at first, but we finally gotten on to some very pleasant terrain. So I feel comfortable breaking out the camera and giving a little update. So we are a little over 3 miles from Route 19, and I believe it's about 7:30 p.m. right now. And we're actually approaching something called Doll Flats, which represents the North Carolina-Tennessee border, and it's the last time that we'll be in North Carolina on the AT. So there's a sign when we get up there. I think we're actually really close to it from my memory, and there's a sign that says "Leaving North Carolina." And so when we get there, that'll be officially the second state completed for Riley and I on the AT. So nice accomplishment. And then we'll be in Tennessee until we arrive in Virginia. I actually think the sign is like right up there, right where the trees start up there. So I guess that means we are in North Carolina now. We've been flip-flopping back and forth between Tennessee and North Carolina a lot, especially when we were in the Smokies. In the Smokies, there was a section where we were literally on a ridge line, which I believe represented like the dividing marker between North Carolina and Tennessee. And so if you went to the I think the east, this is going to test my geography, but if you went to the east, you'd be in North Carolina, and the west, you'd be in Tennessee. Look at all these tents here. Oh my goodness. Enormous. All right, so here is the nice sign, "Leaving North Carolina." Beautiful, beautiful. Congratulations, Riley. We're now in Tennessee, so second state is complete. There are so many tents here. Holy cow. Riley wants to go in there and party, party, party. These must be, I don't know. But, all right, so I'm gonna turn the camera off and we'll check in later. All right, so we are back on trail now. I was able to entice Riley with some dog food to break his fixation on going to the tent site and meeting all the people. And now we are officially in Tennessee. So we've been in Tennessee before, but we've officially completed 2 states now, as I said before. And I just wanted to give an update on last night, because I didn't close out yesterday's video after I got to the shelter, and haven't talked about it yet today. So we eventually got to the shelter, Roan High Knob shelter. This way, Riley. Okay, you want to go this way. There's a little tree in the way here. We eventually got to the shelter a little after 10 p.m. last night, and the last half mile after we got to that chimney remnant from Cloudland Hotel, I think, it just felt like it took a very long time to get there. Plus my headlamp started losing, like the batteries are starting to get old, so the high beam isn't working anymore, and I'm only able to get a smaller beam out of the headlamp. So I mean, we were hiking in the dark, and that always makes the hiking more difficult when you can't rely on the natural light. But anyway, we eventually got there, and it was a little after 10 p.m. and it was definitely chilly when we got there. And I secured Riley to the one of the posts outside the shelter, and I opened the door just to peek my head in, and I had my headlamp on with my red light on so I didn't accidentally blind people if they looked at me. And I found usually there's a platform where people set up their sleeping pads. Come on, Riley. Let's go, buddy. But there was no such platform at this shelter. There was just a floor. And I guess that was okay because this shelter had a door. So the platform is usually meant to separate the sleeping area from the ground. But this shelter had a door, so everything inside was a legitimate sleeping area. And most of the sleeping area was already taken. The only real spot, there was a little spot between two people, but it seemed like it would have been difficult to kind of fit in there. And everyone was already asleep too. There were already people snoring loudly. The door actually creaked a lot. Hold up, Riley. When I opened it, and I figured that was going to wake everybody up. I'm sure it woke some people up, but after I opened the door, whoever was snoring was still snoring very loudly. Anyway, so I poked my head in, and I was able to figure out that I could set up my sleeping pad kind of next to the door, which wasn't ideal because that meant that people, if they needed to get outside, they would need to walk over me. But it is what it is. It was what it was. I definitely wanted to stay in the shelter last night rather than walking all the way to the shelter only to set up my tent, especially with the cold weather. So, and I did my best to not disturb anyone as much as possible. So once I realized that there was space inside, and nobody was yelling at me for coming in at past 10 p.m., I then went back outside, hung my Ursack food bag from a tree branch, and I kind of got everything set up that I was going to need inside. I did that outside on the shelter porch with Riley. So all I really needed was my sleeping pad, my sleeping bag, my liner for my sleeping bag, and my pillow. And then the second very thin foam pad, which I use just to give us a little more area between myself and Riley. And then I was able to leave everything else outside the shelter. And there was a nice awning outside the shelter to protect against rain. If for some reason it did rain overnight, it would have kept my stuff dry. But that wasn't necessary because it did not rain last night. Anyway, so that took about maybe a half hour to 45 minutes to get all that organized. And then Riley and I, once I had everything organized in the shelter, Riley and I crept back in. We got in our sleeping bag. I was actually hoping that I could do some reading before we got to the shelter. But once I realized that everyone was already asleep, I just didn't want to be any more of a disturbance than I already was. So Riley and I just crawled into the pad. I got in my sleeping bag. Riley had his warm coat on, and we just tried to get to sleep. And I was actually warm enough, but I wasn't very comfortable because Riley likes to kind of sleep either like in between where my legs bend or right beside me, and he'll put his head on some part of my sleeping bag. And it's just seems to be very difficult to, I mean, the other thing he likes to do is he likes to just get on the big sleeping pad. Look at this. Oh, this is that's a big rock. This is a cool rock formation here. For some reason, I thought that actually looked like a shelter, but that's rock. All right, so let's continue on, Riley. There's no need for us to dilly-dally here. Very cool rock. So to continue on, right, so I was warm enough, but I usually, when we stay in a shelter, I usually have trouble getting a comfortable sleeping position. And that was the case last night as well. Eventually, later in the night, I did manage to claim the sleeping pad for myself and encourage Riley to use the other pad that I have. And I was able to kind of stretch out my legs. So that felt good. But it was still so cold that I basically had to pull like everything that I could, pull my head and my hands inside the sleeping bag liner just to keep warm. And I was able to keep warm. Like I wasn't shivering during the night, but it was still hard to, be truly comfortable. Anyway, so the other thing I wanted to mention is in the middle of the night, Riley, I could sense that he was actually shivering from the cold, even though he had his warm jacket on. And fortunately, there was a guy who was sleeping in the shelter who had, when I arrived at the shelter, everyone was asleep. Hold up, Riley. But he had left a nice warm puffy jacket on the floor of the shelter. And I actually had to move that when I got there to make room for our sleeping pad. So I just moved it. Riley, hold up, buddy. Riley, trail goes this way. That's where the white blazes are. Riley thinks the trail goes this way. Okay. Riley, come on. Yes, anyway, so there was a nice coat that I just moved over to make space for ourselves, and it was right next to me. So when I noticed Riley was shivering, I decided to just take the coat and put it over him as a blanket. And after I did that, he stopped shivering. So I was really thankful for the jacket that was there. And in the morning, when people started waking up, the guy who owned the jacket, he was really cool about it. He totally understood, and he wasn't mad about it at all. So I was really thankful that I was able to use it for him on a cold night, and also that the guy was so nice about it, and not bothered that I had made the decision to just put it over Riley to keep him warm. And we got off to a late start this morning because we were still cold. Riley was in no hurry to get up. He was even though everyone else was getting ready to go out, he was still happy to stay curled up and stay close to my sleeping bag. The other thing is, I had said before that the shelter was a 2-story shelter, and when I got there last night, I was surprised because it didn't seem like it was a 2-story shelter. But then this morning when I woke up, I realized that there actually was a ladder like right at the front part of the shelter, just a little bit of ways from where the front door was. So there was a ladder leading up to a second floor, and I just didn't realize that in the dark last night. And there were only 2 people sleeping on the second floor, so there would have been plenty of room for Riley and I to get up, to sleep there. The only problem was there wouldn't have been any way for Riley to actually, or to easily get up the ladder. So if I'd gotten there earlier, then, before everyone else went to bed, then potentially someone else in the shelter could have decided to sleep on the second level, and there would have been more room for Riley and I on the first level. Anyway, this is a lot of unnecessary information. Just wanted to give an update on our experience last night. Overall, I was definitely thankful to have gotten to the shelter, and I'm glad I was able to experience it. Like just the fact that Roan High Knob is at the highest elevation of any other shelter on the AT. It's not the highest elevation on the AT, that belongs to Klingman's Dome. But just being able to experience what the highest elevation shelter was like, even though it was on May 31st, that was pretty cool. So I'm glad I was able to experience it, and I can only imagine how cold it would be for people that started much earlier, like back in February. They would have definitely needed their 0-degree sleeping bags and warm sleeping clothes to have a chance at being comfortable much earlier in the year. So we are gradually making our way down to Route 19. And I know I said earlier that I was probably gonna not go into Mountain Harbor, but I think it's gonna be like a game time decision when I get down to Route 19. I'm still tempted to go in, so I will provide an update once we get down there with what we've decided to do, or possibly depending on what we do, I won't provide an update, and I'll just give an update tomorrow in tomorrow's video. And look at this. This is another cool rock formation. This is enormous. Very, very, very cool. Look at this. We're like little ants compared to this rock structure here. And I can like hear our echo of my voice. This is ginormous, Riley. Okay, so that's long enough for an update. We will sign off here for the time being. Hope everyone is doing well, and we'll check back in later. Bye for now. All right, another update here. So, plans have changed again. I am getting close to Route 19. We are getting close to Route 19. We are probably a little over a mile away. And I can feel the energy just flowing through me. My hiking pace has picked up. It's helped a lot that the trail is downhill now, and the terrain is very, very pleasant. Hardly any rocks on the trail. Just nice smooth dirt beneath our feet. But not just that, just getting close to Route 19 and the opportunity to get to Mountain Harbor, it's just exciting me. And I actually tried to call a little while back, actually for the past several miles, since I started descending the mountain. I tried to call their number, but I had trouble connecting. Even though my phone said it had service, I had trouble getting the call to go through. But a little while ago I was able to get the call to go through, but it's like close to 8:30 now, and when I placed the call it was like 8:10 p.m. So not surprisingly, they did not answer. I got a voicemail, so I left a message with them saying that I was interested in staying the night and buying a tent site, which is, according to their information on Far Out, it's $15 for a tent site, which is pretty standard for hostels along the trail. And I was also said that I was interested in breakfast tomorrow morning, which I believe is $13. So at least I've given them the information of my desire to stay, and I plan to, like earlier on when I was up on the Bald near Hump Mountain and it was so windy, I was still like a little over 5 miles away from Route 19, and at that point I wasn't even sure what time it was, and I wasn't even sure if we'd be able to get to Route 19. I wasn't even sure if it might start raining or not. So that was that led to part of my indecisiveness about what to do. But now that we're getting close to the road, even though like everything I said before still holds true, like my pack is heavy, my food bag is larger than it needs to be, but my pack does feel okay. And I feel like, given the reputation of this hostel and their breakfast, I'm right here. It's okay to, even if I feel like I'm overindulging, I feel like that's okay. I'm not spending like $100 or anything to try it. It's a reasonable cost. And I'm right here. This is my opportunity to try out things along the trail. So Riley and I are going to try to hike in when we get there. It's only 0.3 miles from the road, so it shouldn't take us long once we get there. And we'll probably get there a little after 9 p.m. There's usually hikers still up around that time, so I can ask them for, like, if for some reason there isn't anybody who's running the hostel up at that time, I can ask hopefully one of the other hikers, like, just information about where the tent sites are and the Wi-Fi password, etc., etc. And then tomorrow morning I can meet with management there and settle up and make sure to pay for the tent site and as well as the breakfast. And I think that should be fine. So I'm excited. Riley and I are walking very well right now. Like again, it's a huge difference compared to last night, where we were walking uphill and the terrain got more challenging as we got further uphill. Now we're walking downhill and the terrain is getting easier. But this makes a world of difference in terms of how the hiking feels. Like, I feel like I'm just flying through the miles, and just also getting to possibly getting to Mountain Harbor is getting me excited. Two other things to update on quickly. The Over Mountain shelter, which Riley and I stopped at the entrance for earlier, which was, it used to be a barn and it was used as a shelter, and then it stopped being available for use as a shelter. I saw some other hikers on the trail after the video that I shot, and learned that they have since, actually just within the last year, they've actually torn down the barn. So the barn is no longer there. The land is still available for people to tent on, I believe, but there's not really much purpose in going out there just to tent, since there's so many tent sites on the AT. So that's one update. The other thing I want to mention is last night when Riley and I were hiking into the, up the mountain, up 5 miles up the mountain to get to the shelter. Once it got dark, like not totally dark where I needed my headlamp, but once it got dark where it was getting to be challenging to see, Riley did an awesome job hiking. Like, he oftentimes was like I was letting him lead at that time, because it wasn't a problem that he wasn't pulling me too hard. He was walking at a good pace, and since he was leading, he was actually navigating the trail better than I was able to do from behind. There were times where I kind of had trouble knowing which way the trail was going, but Riley just kind of knew which way to turn, and I was able to then, I wasn't following him blindly. Like, I was able to confirm after we got further ahead that we were on the right track. But I thought it was awesome that Riley was did such a good job in the lead with staying on trail and helping me in the dark where I was having trouble seeing, and he just did awesome. So I thought I'd mention that. We will check back in a bit once we get to the hostel. All right.